demographics. We are going to the economy and TopRamen4All, which is a callback to that slide that we showed last week where Walmart was bragging that in the middle of a blizzard where I think it was like, minus 18, and they forced their employees to come to work, they gave them Top Ramen and some saltines. 18 cents of a feel-good quick break before you chop, get back to work.
Yeah, 18 cents, ouch.
In spite of that generosity, the new Legal Shield data reveals the highest consumer financial stress level in 3 years. Bidenomics, baby. Bidenomics.
But we're told by guys like Will Stansel, last week's Worst of the Week, that the economy is doing great. And the truth is, the economy is doing great for people who already have money.
Yeah.
And corporations. Everyone else is struggling like hell. Jeff Bezos is not struggling. Jeff Bezos made just yesterday, this is from Warren Gunnell's chief of receipts, as we used to call him.
That's right.
$2.1 billion just yesterday.
I mean, it's so crazy because so much of his wealth, and that's what's quoted below, comes from government bailouts. Mississippi has approved bills to give Amazon a 10-year, 100% corporate tax exemption, plus 30 years of state tax exemptions. Lawmakers also set aside $44 million to help fund Amazon's latest project in the state. And Mississippi has the highest poverty rate in America. I don't know, it seems not to have made it in here, but there was some of the lawmakers in Mississippi wanted there to be a stipulation that Amazon would have to hire a certain percentage, like a quarter of the new hires would have to be local hires from Mississippi, but that was stripped out because you don't want to help people in the community.
So the way
money you're stealing.
The way our government used to work is these big companies would come into town and say, you politician, I will fund your campaign. I will give you all this money. In return, I will guarantee 10,000 jobs, which was always a loss because companies like Walmart and Amazon, what Walmart did was they did that in these cities, and they would come in and provide jobs for like 5 years. And then even though the buildings are fine, they would pack up as soon as their tax deduction break went, and they would fire everybody, move a few towns over, put up a new building. But now we're at the point where you can't even pretend they're jobs because Amazon, who first off, they provide some of the worst jobs, lowest paying jobs. They have the unsafe work environment for just about everybody.
Right.
They can't guarantee it because they're gonna automate all those jobs. So all the jobs they give people are gonna disappear.
Yep.
But it's a losing formula for the cities where these companies go to. It's temporary bullshit, low paying jobs
that we subsidize. And, with Walmart, a lot of the people are on public funds also because they don't make enough to sustain their housing and food. So not only does Walmart get tax breaks to build a new, superstore, just like Amazon, but then the government is also paying out benefits, whether it's food stamps or
and
extra sources of money for people who are working poor. They are not able to subsist on that. And so basically that means that Walmart and Amazon, they're like double dipping. And we're just bailing them out.
It's us handing all of our government money to Amazon, who obviously they give these shitty jobs, but they also close lots of small businesses and medium-sized businesses. So they're creating the problem to where all you can do is work there. And as you work there, all you can do is also be on the government programs because you can't feed your family, you can't pay rent, and you could be homeless and fully employed and working at Amazon. And but it's the only job in town because Amazon put, all the other opportunities are gone. And so even if you're in that position, automation is going to replace that job for most of those people. So there's no benefit to anyone bringing in an Amazon factory. It's any politician selling people on that is just taking a kickback from Amazon.
It's one of the few good things that AOC actually fought for
did
or
in New
against
York.
at the beginning of her tenure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know like this isn't a new thought, but I just, the idea that people work so hard for companies, have their money taken out, that then goes to the government who's paid by those companies to enact legislation that helps those companies more and hurts the people who are working for. I mean, it's like, it is such a rigged system. And to work your whole life just to be continually giving money to these people who use it for their own benefit or to slaughter people abroad. I mean, I don't know. I just, that's not cheery. So we can just move on. But
No,
boy,
but
it just sometimes feels really.
The biggest takeaway always on the economy to me is, look, if we detached healthcare from employment, it would be the biggest shock to the employment system in this country. You know, not many people are going to work for scraps at a shitty, evil company if they can at least have their healthcare paid, because you can survive in a tent somewhere, and if I'm taken care of with my health and my family and my kids, you know, it's a different scenario than suffering an awful, evil situation. And once we get healthcare past universal healthcare in this country, it's not a solve all situation, but it's a huge step that we need to make happen here to improve a lot of people's lives.
Right. And absolutely, you know, someone wrote down here, sorry, Chris, why isn't the federal minimum wage tied to the cost of living? Of course, that's what should be happening. It's absurd that it's not. And yeah, Audrey, this is the other thing, the Kroger-Albertsons merger, you know, all of these monopolies that we used to fight against. I mean, I can't believe that I long for the days of Barnes and Nobles being on not every corner, but, you know, I used to hate them because they were putting out of business the independent bookstores. And now Amazon's put almost all, I mean, we have like one bookstore in a 7-mile radius in Los Angeles. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Audrey does say that she's been writing about this on her Substack. So if you all want to check out her writing on it. Yeah.
And I know I mentioned this before, but I wrote a book or two, and I wanted to avoid Amazon. So I was like, oh, Goodreads has all these reviews where people can just put their reviews up for your book. Amazon bought them, you know. So that's what they do. They just chomp up everybody. Yeah. There's no competition that can survive them.
Yeah. Well, in good news, no, I mean, it's just like Supreme Court will be hearing a bipartisan effort to criminalize homelessness. And we've already been seeing, I think, was this in Sacramento? This was near you, Pat.
Yeah, I shared this.
Yeah.
They're using prison labor, and they have been repeatedly to clear the encampments because nobody wants to do that except people that
are being forced to.
Basically forced to.
Like slave labor. Yeah.
And there's no place for these people to go. And they've fucked with the laws so much that, you know, they created these rules allegedly where you have to have so much space in the homeless camps before you clear camps, and they're not following it. Every government project that they try to do in Sacramento, you know, like they built like 100 pods, these little minimal teeny housing units, which is a great idea, but it costs, you know, $100 million. I'm throwing out a number. I don't know the actual number, and it took like 3 years to build them. And I think they're just now starting to move people into them. Right. And it's a solution for 100 people, you know? Yeah. And then they also have like another project where it's like, they're going to turn a parking lot into a place for tents. And it's like $30 million project. And it's like, it's a parking lot, and you're just going to make it available for tents. Like it's the people just getting rich on this. Yeah. And none of this is altruistic. It's like, but none of it's going to solve the problem is the point.
No, we know the problem. Tax the rich, force people to pay a living wage, keep the federal minimum wage in line with cost of living.
More housing. Don't let banks buy houses.
Yeah, prohibit businesses from buying single family homes. I mean, there's so many solutions that would force
housing is the number
our
one
government.
solution for homelessness. Affordable housing,
Yeah.
which is unaffordable at this point, period,
Yeah.
for people.
But it would force politicians to say no to their donors, and that is one thing they will never do. Another way. Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you just never retire.
Yeah. I love that. I mean,
mean,
it's like, yeah, pleasure cruises, golf, and tracing the family tree, they're not that fulfilling. I mean, listen, I'm not into any one of those three. I mean, sort of family tree is interesting, but I don't know that would be like what you do in retirement.
See, I was going to say, you know, I went on one cruise and it was actually fun.
Yeah.
And, I used to golf. My progressive card is gone, but I don't golf anymore. At least, you know, golf is bad. I got it.
But the propaganda is strong with them. You know, the other thing, they just did a big report on how huge companies, Coca-Cola and Post and all these companies use inmates, prison labor for their companies. So it's forced work. I mean, the other word for that is slavery. And so when you are, and, you know, people will be like, oh, well, they're in jail. They shouldn't have done something illegal if they didn't want to go to, you know, like that. But like, well, you've criminalized everything. Like you can't protest, you can't smoke weed, you can't, I mean, like,
we're looking at the convergence of those last two slides we showed. I mean, you're going to criminalize being homeless, and then you're going to put people in prison to work clearing the homeless camps. Like,
it is really evil. It is evil.
It is evil, but
capitalism is the problem for sure.
You just never retire. Keep reading those feel-good stories about the 1 in 2 billion people who like suddenly
pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
and they get a house out of their GoFundMe because their life is so fucking miserable. Well, believe me, I could find 10,000 people within 10 miles of me here living shitty, fucking awful lives that can't afford rent. And
that
they're
poverty
not getting
porn.
that miracle, Mr.
No.
Well, who's the guy who has the rich bastard? I don't know.
I don't know, but you know, that was another one of all of Obama's former staff has gone on to do the most disgusting things, you know, whether they're working for like these gig economy Uber places or but one of them is one of the founders and has made millions on GoFundMe. It works out really well if you have a country that doesn't provide healthcare, and that's the primary use right now for GoFundMe. So you get to fight against universal health care and the one candidate who, you know, whatever, said he was going to do it with your Obama. And then you get to profit off of people's maladies and desperation.
And you only like these GoFundMes. I feel so bad because I get DM'd every day about GoFundMes.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, I don't know you. And there are frauds out there. And unfortunately, the people who end up getting benefited from these things are people who can work social media somehow, or, you know, but most homeless people don't have access to social media, in the way, and they don't have a compelling story necessarily, or they probably do, but like,
or they might not have a bank account where you can like, I mean, like there's a lot of issues.
Well, and you know, when they sweep these tent camps, they usually don't give these people enough time to gather their documents. And one of the biggest problems is you can't get a lot of public services without documentation because we have this red tape bullshit system. So, you know, they take all their documents and it sets them back every time you sweep the camp. It's like they have to go get all this stuff and reboot their lives. And
it's awful.
It's
really a depraved system.